Last time we left off with the ad hominem, where you're going to try to portray your opponent in a negative light by accusing them of something that is not true. This is a modification of the straw man, where in the straw man you are taking an idea and a concept and you're misrepresenting it. Instead, in the ad hominem, you're misrepresenting the person itself to make it seem like that person has ill intent and should not be listened to. An argument for an ad hominem would be something like, bro, you're not stupid. What are you doing? Something like that. Telling the other person that they're not something. Oh, come on, you're not stupid, right? You're not actually going to fall for this. Like, that person just called you stupid. Whether they want to recognize it or not, they are saying you are stupid if you disagree with me. It's a... hey, I'm not calling you stupid. I'm just saying, if you continue doing what you're doing, then, hey, doesn't need to be said. And that's the thing, it's an implied one. So that way they can always say something. Oh, that's the Mott and Bailey, where you say something obscene, and then as soon as someone calls it out, you instead run away to something that isn't that obscene. All women should be forced. No abortion should be allowed in the United States. Like, women shouldn't be killing their babies. And then you tell them, but they're not babies. And it's like, all life is sacred. They say it. They call it a baby. But when you ask to point out when you would call it a baby, is it once the sperm touches the egg? Because that's like a cell. That's not a baby. Like, when do you call it a baby? They're like, let's not call it a baby, let's call it life. That's the Mott and Bailey. They retreat to something else. So the ad hominem is very similar to that, because you can manipulate the ad hominem in several different ways. It's not simply calling someone a pedophile or insulting someone. It isn't just saying he's a pedophile. No. It's saying you shouldn't listen to my opponent because he's ... Or you shouldn't have that idea because people who have that idea are ... Insult happens if you're on the side that isn't, if you're not on my side, is another way. Alright, tu quoque. This is a modification of an ad hominem. Instead of receiving it, you're going to turn it back to the person. So, I'm going to read it out. You avoided having to engage with criticism by turning it back on the accuser. You answered criticism with criticism. Pronounced tu quoque, literally translating as you too. This fallacy is known as the appeal to hypocrisy. It is commonly employed as an effective red herring because it takes the heat off of someone having to defend their argument, and instead shifts the focus back onto the person making the criticism. Example, Nicole identified that Hannah had committed a logical fallacy, but instead of addressing the substance of her claim, Hannah accused Nicole of committing a fallacy earlier on in the conversation. Very, very common. This happens to me all the time. I'll say to someone, it looks like that was a bigoted statement. And I say, I'm not saying anything bigoted, you're the bigot. To combat that, a tu quoque, very simple. You just ask the person, just go into their world and say, oh, I am a bigot. Okay, so why do you say that I'm a bigot? Then it forces them to explain why they're calling you a bigot. They don't have a reason to call you a bigot, because the reality is they're calling you that because you called them a bigot first. And not just bigots, of course, but just an insult. So you give a pejorative statement, meaning that you're describing someone's actions. Like, hey, what you just did was rude. And then that person says, oh, that was rude. I think what you did last week to Suzanne was rude. That's also a tu quoque. Doesn't have to be the exact same thing. It could be something else. For example, I'll say something like, I think Donald Trump is violating the emoluments clause, and then someone says, yeah, what about Hillary doing ... And it's like, that one is actually called a whataboutism, but it's a variation of the tu quoque. More specifically, tu quoque is when you're turning it back to the person who's saying it. So when you hear people say something like that, where you're saying something about, let's say for example, Trump, and then they bring it to Hillary, what's happening is that they see themselves as Trump in that idea, so they're defending themselves. And when they defend themselves, they think that by attacking Hillary that they're attacking you. It's not insane, it's just very insulated mindset that does this type of thing. It's very third spatial. It takes a special type of person to get upset at something that they're making up in their own mind. Anyways, that's the Tukokui. It's hilarious. This one's just horrible and hilarious. You'll hear it all the time. In Among Us, the video game, you hear someone say something like, "It's red," and then Red's like, "No, it's not me. It's definitely you." That's a Tukokui. It's very simple, but that's why I like Among Us, because it summarizes everything down to the simplest point. Someone who is being honest, they could be mistaken with the Tukokui. They could just be offended and they don't want to face the reality, stuff like that. That's why you gotta just ask, "Oh, okay, so why are you saying that about me, though?" Once they recognize that they are putting themselves in a deeper hole by pointing the finger at you and having no evidence for it, because you are pointing the finger at them with evidence, versus they are pointing the finger back at you and just trying to be louder. It's about being the louder monkey. If I accuse you of being the imposter and you scream saying that it's actually me, I'm lying, people are generally going to listen to the person screaming because you put more emotion into it. That's the point of being a sophist, though. People believe you outright at the very first outset. No one ever believes you when they think about what you're doing. And the person who is accusatory, angry, person who's deflecting questions, stuff like that, that person's usually suspect. Until you play a game with stupid people who don't know any of this stuff, which is why I'm doing this, because hopefully people are no longer stupid. I don't like playing with stupid people, I like playing with smart people. So stop being stupid and be smarter than me so I can be the stupid person. Makes sense. Alright, this one is the personal incredulity. I have a hard time with this one, because every single time I see someone who I already don't trust say something, boom, I always remind myself, no, this is just a personal incredulity. Let's figure it out, though. Alright, so this is a fallacy. Because you found something difficult to understand or are unaware of how it works, you made out like it's probably not true. Complex subjects like biological evolution through natural selection require some amount of understanding before one is able to make an informed judgment about the subject at hand. This fallacy is usually used in place of that understanding. Example: Kirk drew a picture of a fish and a human, and with effusive disdain asked Richard if he really thought we were stupid enough to believe that a fish somehow turned into a human through just like random things happening over time. Again, this is personal incredulity. You lack understanding of the whole, therefore you can't believe it. As an example, playing this game, I had a friend who I tried to explain to him that not the farragut, it's called a Mahan. I keep trying to explain to him that the American ships, they are very strong. I don't have it on this right now. They are very strong because this is what I do. And they looked at me weird, because I didn't have this torpedo speed, and I didn't have this. They were incredulous to my assertions that the observant rage, giving me an extra minus 8% reload, and the minus 6% of 1,000 cuts combined with mortar, and everyone's looking at me like I'm a weirdo, like I'm crazy or something, as if there was some strange reason why it is that I focus so hard on AP damage on this ship. But if you look at it, it's clear why, because this ship hurts. It's not made for torpedoes. The torpedoes are 6.4 kilometers. They're tiny. This ship is made for this. That is 2,300 damage every 3.4 seconds. Let's cut it up to 4 seconds. Every 4 seconds, I'm gonna shoot at you about 2,000 damage. I'm cutting down my damage. 2,000 damage every 4 seconds. That means, boom, 8 seconds have passed. That is 4,000 damage. Boom. Again, another 4,000. That's 12,000. Boom. Not 12,000, my bad. Where's my mind at? 6,000. Then again, 8,000. Again, 10,000. I've done 10,000 damage to you in 10 seconds. Just keep that into perspective. No, wait a minute. What's my... Oh, man. I cannot do math right now. Every 4 seconds, in 40 seconds, there we go. In 40 seconds, I've done 20,000 damage to you. 40 seconds, 20,000 damage. When I did that math, I'm like, yes. All I have to do is keep shooting. And that's the problem. A lot of people don't want to do that. But that's the point of having 120 seconds on your smoke screen. Like, you see how much information you have to know in order for this to make sense? You have to work it out. So people who play this game are incredulous. They do not have all that information behind them telling them, okay, this might work. No. So to them, they had personal incredulity fallacy. They were like, no, that's difficult to understand, therefore it's not true. I can't understand how you could possibly do damage, so it didn't happen, it's lies. I showed them a photo of the damage. Still don't believe it. I've won games with a Mayhem, and I had this is a tier 5, and the enemy had a tier 7 Iowa, and there was a tier 7 Kawasaki or something, I forgot the name of it. I killed both those ships because it's simple math. As long as I keep shooting at you, you don't hit me, I win. If they would let me, I'd do it with the Farragut too. Because this thing, 10.2 kilometers. And this thing, where is it? 10.4 kilometers. Like, there's no difference. That 0.2 doesn't mean anything. Okay, let's go to the next. Oh, how to fight the personal incredulity. You give the person more information. You ask them why they can't believe it. They'll usually say something, because I just can't. And then you generally just tell them, well, you should try it yourself. And that's how it works. You have to help the person understand that they have to try it themselves. If someone's being deceitful, they're just saying that they don't believe it because they shouldn't. Same thing. You ask them, why don't you try it? A lot of the stuff to figure out if someone's being dishonest, or like a sophist, or if they're being honest, the easiest way is just to ask them to try out the thing that you're trying to explain. Telling someone, well, if you just hear me out and we could talk, maybe you'd be able to understand it. Stuff like that usually helps a lot more than using sophistry. Special pleading. You moved the goalpost or made an exception when your claim was shown to be false. Humans are funny creatures and have foolish aversions to being wrong. Rather than appreciate the benefits of being able to change one's mind through better understanding, many will invent ways to cling to old beliefs. One of the most common ways that people do this is to post-rationalize a reason why what they thought to be true must remain to be true. It's usually very easy to find a reason to believe something that suits us, and it requires integrity and genuine honesty with oneself to examine one's own beliefs and motivations without falling into the trap of justifying our existing ways of seeing ourselves and the world around us. Example: Edward Johns claimed to be psychic, but when his abilities, quote-unquote abilities, were tested under proper scientific conditions, they magically disappeared. Edward explained this, saying that one had to have had faith in his abilities for them to work. So, moving the goalpost, special pleading, however you want to call it. This one's a very simple one. How many have we done? We've done 3. Yeah, I went off on a tangent, didn't I? We'll stop at ambiguity. So for this one is special pleading. Okay. So when someone's using the special pleading, they're almost always being disingenuous. It's almost always going to be a sophist, and they're trying to save face. The only time it's ever going to be accidental is when there was a misunderstanding, and you were the one who misunderstood. So, simple way to recognize if it's special pleading, ask the person to explain what they originally meant, and then forget about it. Literally forget about the original misunderstanding. The person has moved the goalpost, and that's it. It's your own fault for not establishing the goalpost. This is how I'm going to explain it. If I ask you, why do you believe in Santa? And then you say, because he delivers presents all year long. And then I say something like, he couldn't possibly go into everyone's homes in one night. Moving the goalpost would be saying something like, I didn't say in one night. Did you listen to what I said? I said he does it all year long. The presents are in your home. They just appear there on that night. Suddenly, you can't tell the person, oh, it's all in one night. Now, I apologize. Never cough into the mic like I just did. Now the person has moved the goalpost to, oh, so now it's magic that makes the presents go into the tree. Almost always, the person who's moving the goalpost is only making it look like they're moving the goalpost. They're still saying the same thing they said originally. But if I said to you, they have weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, and you said to me, we looked, turns out they didn't, and then I said, whoa, I said that my intelligence agencies reported that there were WMDs. I didn't say there were WMDs. Suddenly, you've changed your story. This too is moving the goalpost. The goalpost was, there are weapons, I confirmed it, and now it's been moved to, my agency told me so. This happens common in, as soon as someone is trying to report a crime, they're like, I saw voter fraud. And they ask him, what happened? And then the guy says, they were marking ballots for the wrong date for Biden. And then they go, what? Okay, we're gonna need your testimony on this. Can you tell us exactly what happened? Okay, so I'm about to get in my truck, and then I heard it. I heard them saying, change these from the 6th to the 8th. Oh, change them from the 8th to the 3rd. So that must be voter fraud, right? And then they told the guy, okay, so was this voter fraud, or is this just you heard it and you assumed it was voter fraud? And the guy said, well, I heard it and I assume it's voter fraud, right? And then they said, that's not voter fraud. Do you know what they were talking about? No. Did you talk to them about it? No. So what exactly are you calling us about? I heard them say 3rd to 8th. I mean 8th to 3rd, so clearly that's voter fraud. We're gonna investigate it, thanks, I guess. That's moving the goalpost. It went from something, and it came out to be nothing. Well, we don't know if it's nothing. He exaggerated so much on the story that they lost so much time investigating, so now they have no idea, so, oh well. Anyway, that's the most recent case of special pleading that I've seen. Another special pleading is whenever a dictator does something wrong, to save face in the media, they'll say, I didn't do it. Then they'll say, even if I did, that's not wrong. Then they'll say, okay, it's wrong, but it shouldn't, no one actually follows that law in the first place. And then they'll say, okay, so people follow that law, but it doesn't apply to me. And then they'll say, I didn't do it. enough time has passed between the accusation and that they can just outright say they didn't do it anymore. Usually happens after the court has settled, and then they can just lie and lie and lie out of court. People have learned that they can just lie to win the will of the people. Simple. Special pleading is another way of lying. It's a way of always being right. It's we're right even when we were wrong. We won the election even though we didn't get all the votes. That's the type of thing that I'm talking about. Loaded question. You asked a question that had a presumption built into it so that it couldn't be answered without appearing guilty. Loaded question fallacies are particularly effective at derailing rational debates because of their inflammatory nature. The recipient of the loaded question is compelled to defend themselves and may appear flustered or on the back foot. Example: Grace and Helen were both romantically interested in Brad. One day, with Brad sitting in within earshot, Grace asked in an inquisitive tone whether Helen was still having problems with her drug habit. We still having problems with your drug habit? It doesn't matter if Helen has a drug habit or not. Now Brad thinks that she had a problem in the past. That's the point of a loaded question. Inferring the mind or the history of someone rather than addressing them. This one is 100% sophistry. Any person who is trying to ask a question and it's a loaded question, they do not have best interest in mind. This is literally this is red flag. This is someone who, it might not be someone who's a sophist, but is definitely someone who has lost interest in talking. It's just bad whenever someone asks a question like this. It's always in bad faith. There's never a time when a loaded question is not in bad faith. Another example of this would be something similar to, when did you stop beating your wife? If the answer to the question is always, I never did that, what are you talking about? If that's your response to it, it's probably a loaded question or some fallacious reasoning of some sort, meaning like don't listen to this person because of ... Other loaded questions are like, how much voter fraud are you okay with? The answer to this is obviously going to be none. But you're using that question to segue. It's not a question you actually want an answer to, which is the point of asking it. It's very effective as a sophist to combat. Let me see, did I say how to combat special pleading? With special pleading, it's your own fault because you have to set the goalpost. So when someone makes a claim, make sure you ask them specifics about the claim before you show proof against it. Otherwise, they're going to weasel their way out. So someone says there's a teacup orbiting Mars, and you say, okay, what do you mean by teacup? Because if you go to Mars and then you check the orbit and there's nothing there, and then they say, well, no. Teacup, I meant like, that was the energy that we were sending over to Mars and it was pulling us towards it. Like suddenly I was just open to saying whatever the heck I wanted to. That's special pleading. So you just have to be like, teacup, what do you mean by teacup? Oh, it's a physical teacup that's actually orbiting Mars. Okay, and it's still there right now. So if I go to Mars right now, I'm going to find a teacup. That's how you address it. You keep asking a question and hound them. Usually when you ask a question like that, okay, so if I go to Mars and I check the orbits, I'm going to see a teacup there. If you ask a question like that, if it's a sophist, they're going to circumvent. They're going to try and divert because they know that they're wrong. If they do believe that there is a teacup actually, they'll be like, yeah, go check it. They could also be lying, but generally, someone who says, yeah, check it, after you ask them like that, that person truly believes what they're saying. So, as for the loaded question, what do you do for someone who asks a loaded question? Same thing, ask them questions. Be like, why are you saying that? What do you mean? Don't answer the loaded question, ever. Don't ever answer a loaded question, because as soon as you answer it, they're going to cut you off from talking and interject their own words. You have to figure a way around that, and the best way around that is to make them talk. Don't be the one talking. There's I forgot who it was that said it, but it's essentially saying don't interrupt your opponent when they're making a mistake. Those are these fallacies. If your opponent just made one of the fallacies, just call them out for it. Let them know, okay, you probably didn't intend to do this, but this is a logical fallacy, dude. You did ... You said ... Do you still stand by those words? No, okay, you don't. Okay, got it. Alright, and burden of proof. You said that the burden of proof lies not with the person making a claim, but with someone else to disprove. The burden of proof lies with someone who is making a claim, and is not upon anyone else to disprove. The inability or disinclination to disprove a claim does not render that claim valid, nor give it any credence whatsoever. However, it is important to note that we can never be certain of anything, and so we must assign value to any claim based on the available evidence, and to dismiss something on the basis that it hasn't been proven beyond all doubt is also fallacious reasoning. Example. Bertrand declares that a teapot is, at this very moment, in orbit around the sun between the Earth and Mars, and that because no one can prove him wrong, his claim is therefore a valid one. My daddy's the strongest man on Earth. No, he isn't. Prove me wrong. And then the person's supposed to say, oh, I can't prove you wrong. And then the person responds back with, see, I'm right. It works for everything. I think you're gay. No, I'm not. Prove me wrong. I had sex with a woman. Sorry, man, but gay people can have sex with women. Sounds like you're gay. Like, it literally works. I think you have HIV. No, I don't. Prove me wrong. I'll take a test. Could be a false negative. Like it literally, you can keep doing this all day. Prove it's not a false negative. See, that's I just realized I used another fallacy there. I made a claim, which is you have AIDS. And then the proper counter to that is no, I don't. Sorry, the proper argument isn't that contrary. You don't actually argue against someone who has a burden of proof. You just ask them to prove it. Someone says you have AIDS. You don't actually say, no, I don't. What you actually do is say, why do you think that? What makes you think that? And then they'll say something stupid afterwards. That's how you combat it. The burden of proof lies on the claimant, the person who's making the arguments. So if someone says something like, there is voter fraud, you ask the person, what do you mean? Please prove it. Which is why in the courts, they're failing left and right with the voter fraud stuff, because no proof. With no proof, can't do it. The reason why I'm going through all this is, this one is the prime example of exactly why I'm doing it. This is how our court system works. We don't work off of sophistry. Our court system is meant to completely destroy sophistry. Sophistry only works as a jury, jury of someone's peers. That's the only time sophistry works. Other than that, sophistry never works. Burden of proof is just someone making a claim. Biden's a pedophile. Prove it. Trump's a pedophile. Prove it. Hillary has children under under a pizzeria that she orbits. Prove it. Putin rigged the election. Prove it. Like, all you have to do is just say the words, prove it. And that's it. If you're playing Among Us and someone says, it's red, it's red, it's red, all you have to say is, prove it. Why do you think it's red? Bring proof to your claim. And then when someone says their proof, make sure that their proof isn't for their claim. So for some people, an accusation is the proof. Simply saying there is voter fraud to them means that there is voter fraud. And I'm not exaggerating with this. One of the people for Trump has a pamphlet full of paperwork All of them are affidavits, signed affidavits by people saying that there was voter fraud. Hundreds upon thousands of people who signed that saying there was voter fraud. But the claim can't be the proof. An accusation isn't the proof. So, hello person who joined to watch. That's the first thing. The claim can't be the proof. Another thing that can't be proof, any of the other logical fallacies. Attacking someone's character isn't proof. Bringing up questions isn't proof. Making complaints about something unrelated isn't proof. What actually is proof is information that would demonstrate it to be true. Objectively. Has to be someone able to show that it's true. And finally, for this lecture, it's going to be ambiguity. Ambiguity. It says, use double meaning or ambiguity of language to mislead or represent or misrepresent the truth. Politicians are often guilty of using ambiguity to mislead and will later point to how they were technically not outright lying if they come under scrutiny. The reason that it qualifies as a fallacy is that it is intrinsically misleading. When a judge asked the defendant why he hasn't paid for his parking fines, he said that he shouldn't have to pay them because the sign said, "Fine for parking here," and so he naturally presumed that it would be fine to park there. That's a funny joke for ambiguity, but I'll give a more appropriate example. Let's see, ambiguity. Example of the ambiguity fallacy, and I know it's just, I'm not able to draw up one right now, but I know it's like on the tip of my tongue. Someone had used one recently on me. You tell someone something along the lines of, I blew up the bathroom, and then they try to have you arrested for terrorism. And then you're like, I said I blew up the bathroom. It's a euphemism for I took a shit in the bathroom. And then the person tells the cops, no, that person said he would blow up the bathroom. He clearly means he's going to destroy the bathroom, that he's going to, put a bomb in there. Like that's like the best way I can explain it. There's other ways of using it. Oh man. I think next time when I start the video, I'm probably going to start on the ambiguity. I need to brush myself up on this one more. Yep, that's what I'm going to do. So thank you very much for watching, and bye-bye.